let's return to our main news this evening, which is that second quake in Nepal. We're joined on the phone line from the capital, Kathmandu, by Darren Hanniffy, who is Regional Director for the Irish aid agency GOAL. Darren, thanks very much indeed for taking our call. I don't know if this is technically an aftershock, but clearly a second very serious, very strong quake.
Yes, Brian, a very serious aftershock, almost of the same magnitude as the original shock. As I arrived into the city, the people were out on the street. Again, more than 2 weeks after the original earthquake, the community is very much in shock. Our own staff were forced to flee the office where we're set up our base here, and obviously facing their own fears. But I was very proud to see that the GOAL operation is going on. We're continuing to get emergency supplies out there, but it's really dreadful timing at a stage when the capital, Kathmandu, was beginning to return to some semblance of normality. Communities were beginning to get on with life and to face up to reconstructing after the earthquake. And here we are faced with yet another disaster. And unfortunately, it's in a new area. It's to the east of the original earthquake, which means new towns and villages have been very, very badly devastated. And again, we're reminded of the big issue that here is the logistical challenge of getting in, getting the air support. This response has been far too slow. The international community has not responded quickly enough. We haven't got the supplies in to meet the demand. And now the problem has been exacerbated by the latest quake.
And again, this quake was in a fairly remote part of the country, Darren, so presumably it could take some time, days or longer, before the full extent of the damage and indeed the casualties becomes clear.
Yes, it's going to be days before we find out. It's night time here as I speak to you, and it's only hours after this earthquake has occurred. We'll be getting some provisional figures in now, but it's going to be in the next couple of days that we're going to understand the true extent of this disaster. We've already been contacted by some of our principal donors asking if GOAL is in a position to step up to respond to these new affected areas. We're getting our staff out there. We're going to start doing assessments immediately and going to start getting assistance out to those areas that are affected. But it's really bad timing in what has already been a hugely challenging operation. Last week, myself, I travelled by helicopter up to some of the more remote areas, landing into a remote village that had not seen any assistance. GOAL was the first on the ground, and we got some assistance out. We're getting aid out to those areas, but it's a huge challenge without air support, without the heavy lift of air operations to get the supplies in. The airport was closed for a short period this evening, which was again hampering efforts to get those emergency supplies on the ground.
And Darren, I mean, clearly aid agencies such as yours can do a certain amount, but I suppose what's required is effectively government action. It requires the mobilisation of the international community. Why isn't it happening as quickly as it should be?
It's just not as coherent a response as we would like. We need the government of Nepal working with the international community as a coherent effort, organising the shipment of supplies into the airport, getting them into storage, and then organising for helicopters and heavy lifts to get them out to the region so that we can distribute them to where they're needed. There's been a tremendous public response back in Ireland, and we can't forget that. And all the funding that has been committed to GOAL and to other agencies has already been spent. GOAL has had a tremendous response to our call to action, but that funding is spent. We're in negotiations now with key donors who want us to step up to this new effort.
Okay.
But we can't do it unless we get the logistics to support that.
Okay. There we leave it. Darren Hanniffy in Kathmandu, thank you very much indeed for talking to us.